Welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to another GBHL YouTube channel video. You're here with your host, GBHL James.
And GBHL Jamie, and it's day 2 or 3 of our Fallen Realms, day 2 of our Fallen Realms week, and we're going to be looking at the Warriors of Isengard.
So in our last video we went through the heroes, and because it's a meaty list, Isengard, in the Fallen Realms, it means that this is 2 videos, just like Gondor. We've only had to do that with Gondor so far.
Yeah.
So Isengard are getting the same kind of treatment.
I think Harad will get the same treatment, red number.
I think so, yeah, it's quite an expanded list. And it's exactly the same in terms of the warriors. So if we look here, you've got a good few pages of Isengard warriors. We should start off with where it does start.
Good.
The most basic, so we've got a little glance there. Warriors of Isengard, the first unit on here is the Uruk-Hai Scout. So the Uruk-Hai Scout, it's kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Not cheap, but kind of cheap, kind of like your ranger costs,
yeah,
you would say.
Yeah.
Fight value 4, which is alright.
It's good.
It's got your 4+ shoot value.
What we were saying before we get good, it's 4, yeah, for push. What we were saying in the King's Men video is fight value 4 is sort of the way you need to be nowadays. Fight value 3 doesn't cut it anymore. And
what you immediately realise is that with the Uruk-Hai list is that across the board, pretty much with an Uruk-Hai in particular, you've got fight 4 there. You've got a fight 4 evil army.
Yeah.
So you realise that this is quite an elite army, even the scouts. So the strength 4,
which is good.
Again, very good. The defence 4, they've got 1 attack, 1 wound, and they've got courage 3. Okay, now they do come with armour, so that's why they're defence 4, not 3. They've got options to take a banner. They can take an orc bow for a single point, or they can take a shield to take them to defence 5.
Yeah.
Now, do we see many of these guys out there?
You see a smattering of them. They're not normally the mainstay of an Isengard army, but you will see a couple of them, maybe a warband or so.
Yeah, I think as we mentioned when we were talking about Mahur, you see a few people taking these as marauders because they like that idea of making use of the movement 8. But as you will see as we go through this, just like we did with the heroes, there are better options.
Better choices.
There are better choices. One thing I do remember is Uruk-Hai scouts out shooting my Rivendell Knights at the second tournament I went to at Huddersfield. George Perkins outshot me. Outshot my Rivendell Knights, which was a horrendous experience. So sometimes you'll see them in that kind of role, other times you'll see them more in the marauder role. Good fight value, good strength, let down by the defence maybe slightly compared to the other options.
Yeah.
And next up, we kind of see what you know, almost your mainstay.
Yeah, this is the bread and butter really.
And who's next?
It's the Uruk-Hai Warrior. So we have the exact same stat line: fight 4, 4+ shoot, strength 4. They start with defense 5 because they're wearing heavy armor, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 3. And these guys have the options for a banner, which is a decent choice for them, a crossbow for 2 points, which is a very good choice, pike, and a shield.
So a very versatile unit. And we tend to see these guys in 3 different roles.
Yeah. Either your front rank, shields, you know, defense 6, strength 4 is a good role, especially with fight 4. Pikes to back someone up, again, you know, strength 4 supports is handy. And crossbows, which is their key role.
Yeah, key role.
I think they're the only ones besides Arbalesters who can reach strength 4 and Bard. But that 24-inch range, move or shoot with a crossbow, but once you get into position, with their being defense 5 natively, they're really tough to move away if you've got strength 2 bows.
Yeah, and they will outshoot a lot of things. They'll outshoot most things, I would say, actually.
Yeah, the only things they struggle to outshoot are sort of elves, because then elves get the 3s, 3 to hit, 5s to wounds, whereas they're 4 and 4. Yeah,
so you can see there that the crossbows are quite an important part of the Uruk-Hai warriors' war gear, as it were. Now you do tend to see a few pipe blocks out there.
Yeah.
Rolling around, because obviously being able to get the 3 attacks, and some people like the likes of Archerians like to put the banner in there as well, so you're effectively rolling 4 dice at fight value 4, which is pretty good. And then sometimes, but less often, you'll actually just see them with the shields and the swords themselves. And that's really because of the next 2 elite troop choices. And the first one is one that we see in the movie. These are the bad boys of Helm's Deep.
Yep.
It's the Uruk-Hai Berserkers. Now these guys are... Yeah, these are scary. They're scary in the movie.
Yeah.
They are nails. And they're also quite expensive though.
Yeah.
They are quite expensive. They're a good few points more. But what do we get for that? Well, they're still fight 4. which again, Uruk-Hai, fantastic, kind of that level that you want. Shoot value 4, which doesn't matter. Strength 4, which is great. These guys are defense 6. Now they don't have armour, they don't have heavy armour, and they don't have a shield. So this is really to reflect them being nuts.
Yeah, being berserk and just fighting and fighting and not going down to the simple
Shoot me,
ones.
I'm okay because I'm berserk. That's the whole idea behind that. Now, key 2 stats here for berserkers. They are 2 attack models. They are 2 attack models. They're 1 wound, but they're also courage 7. So same as a wizard. And again, it's to reflect them being in an absolute range.
Just berserk rage. They will only fail at the smallest chance. Yeah.
Now the war gear they come with is a 2-handed weapon, and of course these guys have got much better since you don't have to use a 2-handed weapon.
Yeah.
That's a 2-handed weapon.
Usually it's single-handed, but yeah.
Yeah. Do we see a lot of Uruk-Hai berserkers?
Yes, you do.
Okay. These are
They're relatively
probably one of the best troops in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely up there.
Probably one of the best infantry troops in the game, having 2 attacks, strength 4, defense 6, fight 4, courage 7,
Yeah.
2 attacks being the key one there. Although you're paying more points for the single model, you're getting an extra dice to roll every time without fail, which you would normally be paying by having a spear support, which would be more than the total cost of this usually.
Yeah.
So a very, very, very good troop that we see a lot of. Now what's been very interesting over the past year in particular, possibly because of the infamy of GBHL Damien,
Yeah.
is the emergence of the following, very rare and hard to get hold of, unlike berserkers, quite easy to get hold of,
Yeah.
emergence of the next troop.
It's the feral Uruk-Hai. So very similar role to the berserker, but a little bit weaker. But the points cost drops enough for you to include a lot more in the overall force.
Yeah.
And they're obviously feral Uruk-Hai. They're fight 4, they're strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks still, 1 wound, courage 5. So elven courage, 2 attacks, defense 5, but they shouldn't be losing the fight that often.
No, they've got that key fight value 4 again, and the 2 attacks. Now for the points, you know, again.
Yeah, they're great. And these guys aren't armed with a 2-handed weapon, so they've got 2 hand weapons, which are swords, so they can feint if they're against something like an elf or a hero.
Yeah, without having to go
2-handed.
Although it hasn't an Uruk-Hai berserker got a dagger?
No. No, this is a thing that Damien believed, then found out halfway through the year that it was wrong.
Because they've been cheating for half
Yeah.
Now we do see a lot of these guys because they've been very successful in a lot of tournaments, and they do allow you to bring a lot more. And I think with the prevalence of evil versus evil, this is where they become a better choice, and with Fury as well.
Yeah.
They become a better choice than the Uruk-Hai berserker a lot of the time, because all of a sudden the strength 4
Doesn't make a difference against them because you're still winning them on 5s.
and your Fury is obviously
Killing
good,
them.
yeah, and your courage 5 anyway, which is pretty good.
And most armies have access to strength 2 bows, so the defense 5's just as good as defense 6.
Yeah. So if you look at some competitive or more competitive Isengard armies this year, in particular at the tournament scene, the Great British Hobbit League, you will tend to see a good contingent of feral Uruk-Hai with a smattering of berserkers rather than the other way around, including Damien, who came 2nd in the league.
Yep.
And of course we have Murtal, who's been bringing his...
Yeah. And Jay Finnegan.
Jay Finnegan. And even my own Isengard army is a 3rd of ferals. So a very, very good foot troop. And now it gets to the big boys, and I think this will be the first monster that we've talked
Yes, yeah,
about.
there's no monsters in Gondor, so...
No monsters in Kingdoms of Men. The first monster that we get to is in the Isengard list. He takes up a big bit of the page because he's a big boy.
Yeah.
It's the Isengard Troll. Now, he's quite expensive.
Yes, he is. He's sort of your hero standard.
Yeah, he's
Really
costing
got the hit.
more. He's kind of your top end of your mid-level heroes, points-wise.
But he's got the stats to match it. The Isengard Troll, interestingly, is thought of as one of the worst trolls.
How interesting.
Yeah. So he's fight 6 with a 5+ shoot value. So a little bit lower than some trolls that we'll see in other armies. He's strength 6, which again, a little bit lower strength. He does carry a shield though. So he's defense 8 with 3 attacks, 3 wounds and courage 4.
Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, he's got his heavy armour and shield, and this is why he gets the defence 8, which if we are comparing, although I know we've not talked about the other source, but if we compare it to, let's say, a Mordor Troll. Mordor Troll is fight 7.
Yeah, strength 7, defense
Strength 7, defence 7. Now, would you rather have the fight 7 to be able to take on a lot of those heroes. You know, they're going to have to heroic strike. Most heroes are going to have to heroic strike against you to beat you. Strength 7, all of a sudden better at taking on the heroes with defense 7. But defense 8 is quite a key point on the defense.
Yes, yeah, because suddenly strength 3 needs 6s by 4s to wound you rather than just straight 6s.
And with the amount of sort of elf shooting that's out there and good armies with strength 3, that is quite key. But we've also got a lot of strength 4 out there, so it depends where you are. Now, interestingly, as a war gear option,
he can take a spear for a point.
Would you support this guy?
If you've got a spare point and you can't get into combat, it's a fight 6 strength 8 attack.
Yeah, it's for a point. Why not? Because they might come up, but you don't really want to be supporting this guy.
You don't want to waste those extra 2 attacks.
Now, I do have a couple of special rules. The first up being terror.
Yeah, it's a terrifying thing to troll.
And then an interesting one, which you only tend to really see from beginner players. You tend to see it when people bring Ents as well.
Yeah, throw stones. So if the troll doesn't move, it's like a crossbow. It doesn't move. It's 2 for a stone. It's got a range of 12 inches and it's strength 8, but you need a 5+ to hit. You sort of see this happening as sort of a last-ditch attempt to get a wound on a hero. You know, someone's run away, can't catch on this turn, I'll try and throw a stone at him.
Yeah. Now, one of my big observations of the Isengard troll is that it is a gorgeous miniature.
I think it is very cool.
It's a very, very cool looking
troll that's been sort of semi-geared up to look like an Uruk-Hai.
Yeah, which is very, very cool. Now, of course, monsters have got a lot better in the new Hobbit rules. So these guys can now rend, barge, and hurl, which you tend to see a lot of the monsters doing these days. So no longer you got the situations where they're just kind of being fed.
They're just being fed one troop per turn. Yeah.
1 troop per turn. Do we see a lot of Isengard trolls around?
In the sort of the mid-table to lower table armies, yes, you do. You don't tend to see them at the high end of the tournament spectrum, but they're a great model to have in an army.
Yeah, they certainly provide a different option. Great thing to sort of whack on the flanks, protect the flank, anchor a flank, do your hurl down the lines. Because they cause terror, not a lot's going to be getting around on that point. But where their issue is, and I think I saw Damien Grantham of Titans War Games making this point in a discussion on the Great British Hobbit League Facebook page not long ago, is they are in a list where you have got some very, very good options, which is where they probably suffer. Some of which being the 2 that we talked about before. And next up, we've got some of your favourites. Yeah. So we'll let you talk about these.
The men of Isengard, Dunlanding warriors.
The Vikings.
The Vikings, they're not great, in all honesty. No. They are fight 3 with a 4+ shoot value, strength 4, which isn't terrible, defense 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, increase 3.
It's kind of like a man profile with armour, but better strength.
Strength 4, yeah. They can take a banner, a bow, a shield, or a 2-handed weapon. So in the list that they are in, they tend to be left out in favour of the Uruk-Hai who can reach defence 6, have a strength 4, and fight 4 for a point more.
Yeah, some really key sort of stats there in terms of the defence and the fight value in particular. I would say, and also the fact that of course Fury is only going to affect the Uruk-Hai. They are reasonably cheap. They're reasonably cheap. So you could do a different kind of build of Isengard army where you almost try and hoard up.
That's the plan.
with your Dunlandings. Now the war gear options are interesting, and some of them are out of production as well.
Yeah.
So you can still get your Dunlandings with your shields, get that defense 5. But
you can't get the bow, you can't get the 2-handed weapon, and you can't get the banner bearers. So I've got lots of shields.
So if anybody would like to donate to Jamie,
if only.
Which would you go for? Would you go for bows?
I'd like 3 with bow and 3 with 2-handed weapon, and I've got enough to do those scenarios.
Very cool, very cool. So if anybody would like to do that for Jamie, or contact him if you want to trade some stuff, that'd be brilliant. So then we come up to sort of what could be your filler to make this army, if you've got them. And these are your wild men of Dunland, which often you have been compared to. Yeah, I think you're more kind of a corsair because you've got that kind of D'Artagnan,
that weird little thing.
Aha, touché. That's what I think of more.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so you've got your wild man of Dunland. These are cheap.
They're
same as Lake Town, Lake Town Guard, is it?
Yes, same place as Lake Town Guard, but do much worse. Well, they trade their fight for defence, don't they? Yeah. So the Wild Dunland is fight 3 with a 4+ shoot value, strength 3, defence 3, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 3, and they've got the option for a 2-handed weapon for a point.
So all the 3's in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
As this can be known, because that's your basic untrained man profile.
That's just a man without armour, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a man without armour. You can take a two-handed weapon with him.
She might be worthwhile doing.
What would obviously be a lot better to do with something cheap like this is to have axes on them.
I think the two-handed weapon is, I think it's like a big pick.
Oh right, okay.
Or a big two-handed blade. Yeah.
You can certainly convert these up to have axes if you wanted to be really cheesy and competitive with them. We don't see these that often.
No.
They're very rare models.
Yeah, I've got I think 6 of them.
You've got 6. They are very, very rare models. I've often contemplated at a lower point, it's got sort of sub 500 points. You could hoard out with your Wild Men of Dunland, maybe have some Dunlanding warriors, and get your Saruman in.
Yeah.
And that's a way to get him into the lower points, to kind of hoard it that way and have your big powerful wizard. Who can obviously change your game. We do not see any of these really. Any of these.
Not particularly.
But something that we do see a little bit is the next option, which is the Warg Rider. Bit of cavalry for Isengard.
Yeah, cavalry, you can say it.
So, a bit more expensive because of course they've got the Warg in there. Now they've got the Orc profile, so they're fight value 3. They've got a 5+ shoot value, so not fantastic. Strength 3, defense 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 2. So, Orc profile.
That's just for the Orc though.
That is just for the Orc.
So if you go in for the Warg, well, if you mix up the stats to get the best out of it, you also get strength 4 from the Warg. So they are a strength 4 cavalry unit.
Yeah, you're always going to use that strength 4 when you can. Now, of course, they do come with a Warg, but you do have options to take a banner, which, when you've got evil troops fight,
it's not really
want to do. It's not worth it.
Get 2 more troops.
Throwing spears for a couple of points.
Potentially,
but they're mostly going to be hitting on 6s if they're moving around, so that's going to be tough. Option for an Orc bow.
Same problem.
Same problem for a lot of evil. And if in this Isengard list, you're probably going to be going for crossbows if you want to shoot.
Yeah.
Or maybe scouts with bows, maybe. Or the option to take a shield, which you probably would do.
You probably will do, yeah.
You probably will do. Now we do see some of these around.
Yeah. Warg Rider's a popular cavalry unit.
Quite popular models as well.
Yeah, I got 52 of them recently.
That's insane.
What, 1 for every week of the new year?
That's insane. I'm checking my parking. I've got another 15 minutes. So yeah, you do see a few of them because of the role on the battlefield. It gives Isengard a bit of cavalry.
Yeah.
Tend to be led by Sharku in this list.
Yes, yeah.
And then next up, we've got the lowly
Orc Warrior.
So exactly same stat line as the Warg Rider.
Previous. But this time they get the option to take a spear and a 200 weapon rather than their previous options.
And this is where you might tend to see, because they are cheap, they're the same as the Wild Man of Dunland. They get an extra defence, but they lose the courage. And they've obviously got worse shoot value. You will tend to see these if you do see him in an Isengard list, and I did come up against this against David Reed, his Isengard list, as he was supporting with Orcs with Spear. Because they are cheap. Cheap. That's the only time you would really see this in an Isengard.
In an Isengard force, yeah.
In an Isengard force. But of course they are covered by a Fury. Are they covered by an Uruk-Hai? Fury? No, they're not, are they? No. So that actually makes them worse in this list.
And then we've got Ruffians.
You like these guys?
Yeah, I've got these. I've got about just over, I think I've got all 1.5 of them. They are very, very cheap, the same as a Moray Goblin, without any gear. They're fight 3 with a 4+ shoot value, strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 2. They can have a bow, so this is actually a really cheap way of getting bows into your force for Isengard, if you've got the models. And they can take a whip. A whip is essentially a throw weapon with a range of 2 inches and strength 1.
It's not fantastic for a point. But I guess it's
But you can whirl with it.
You can whirl, which you might do with them being such low fight value. I mean, they're essentially the same as a Wild Man of Dunland with a more useful option, but less courage, slightly less courage. So yeah, you could really hoard this out. Do you have many of these?
A War Man and a half.
You've got a War Man and a half of them. So this is when you do your...
Scouring of the Shire. But they're going to be in the all-man Isengard list.
Yeah, for your bows.
I've only got 4 bows.
Are you joking?
They're going to have whips.
Yeah, it should be fun to use.
Where there's a whip, there's a way.
Aha. Now, something that we might see in this next year.
Yeah. Thinking about this.
Quite possible.
should I get the big rule book?
Yeah, that's a good idea because we're now coming on to the areas of the game which Jamie and I don't really know too well.
Which I'm sure we'll all get to know very well this next year.
Yeah, and the reason for this is because with Smaug being out, we might see a few people being a bit worried and getting the assault ballistas on the go, so getting the siege engines on the go. So Isengard have got the assault ballista. Now, some very nice models come with this, I have to say. So this it's only a little bit more expensive, bare bones, than a tiny bit more expensive than most of your Uruk-Hai named heroes. Okay. So it's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
it's pretty cheap. Now, what the ballista does, it's a strength 9, defense 10. It's got 4 batter points. Okay, so
oh, it's strength 9.
It's strength 9, yeah, which is interesting. Now, it does come with crew. An Isengard assault ballista has 3 Uruk-Hai warrior crew of heavy armour, and they just have, you know, your standard Uruk-Hai heavy armour. Now, they do have some options. You can take an Uruk-Hai engineer captain for 85 points, so quite expensive. What does that do?
An engineer captain allows you to use might on the all the rolls. Okay,
so that's pretty useful. That's pretty useful. And then of course you're basically getting an Uruk-Hai captain for that as well. Can you add war gear to that?
No, you can't.
So it just comes as
basic. Yes. So it'll be defense 5. 6. That's 5.
Yeah. Now you've got superior construction, which is reasonably cheap. That's 15 points.
Yeah, that's the range going up to 60 rather than 48. Which, if you're playing on 6x4 boards, maybe it's worth it.
And then flaming ammunition, which is 10 points.
You may reroll siege targets any roll of a 1 to wound.
Okay, so it's basically poison.
Poison for siege targets, which Smaug isn't, so there's no point taking it.
Now you can get additional warrior crew for 10 points each, because I presume that when you're...
Crikey, that's more expensive than a regular crewman.
Yeah, because it's basically just a warrior with no shield. Yeah, slightly. So 1 point overcosted maybe. But of course, is it giving you more wounds? So if these guys die, then obviously that can't shoot.
Yeah. So it's giving you more guys to use it. They all need to be, I think, in base contact with it. If any one of them is in combat, they can't fire it. So there's also
you need a minimum of 3.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So there are reasons for maybe bringing a couple more. Okay, now there's a couple of special rules. You've got raise the ladders. The assault ballista can attempt to raise a ladder to the enemy battlements during the shoot phase. To do this, the player must first nominate a point on the battlements within range, which at least one crew member and the machine have line of sight to. Roll to hit as usual. If the hit is scored, the grapple has struck home. If the machine misses, there is no further effect. When the grappling hook hits a single siege ladder within 6 inches of the wall base below, the target point is immediately moved forward to the wall and raised immediately. All ladder carriers drop the ladder as it is raised. Any one of the carriers can grab the top of the ladder and ride to the top as it ascends. The warrior is then treated exactly as if he had climbed to the top of the ladder that turn. So in a siege game, that's actually pretty cool.
That's quite cool,
yeah. Yeah, quite cool.
Berserker carrying your ladder, come on!
You're only going to see this if you're doing your siege games.
Yeah.
Like playing your Helm's Deep, which of course we'd love to do someday.
Yeah. The same thing with this. Oh, the piercing shot is very similar to the.
No, it's very similar to the Gondor one.
Yeah,
so here's the same. Yeah, if shooting at a battlefield target, the missile can conceivably hit several enemies. The target model is struck 1 blow at the strength of the ballista, is knocked to the ground, and is flung 2d6 directly away from it. Except, as noted below, any other models that lie within the path of the victim suffer a single strength 6 hit. Wow. And are knocked to the ground if they have strength 5 or less. If the propelled model hits an obstacle or siege target, it immediately stops and inflicts another single strength hit upon it. So that's pretty good actually.
Yeah.
Cheap. It's quite cheap. What would you take? Would you take your captain with that? The engineer captain?
You should do.
For the might.
To make sure you hit what you want to hit.
Yeah. So we might see a few of those this year.
Also to influence you to wound roll as well.
Yeah. I mean, you got strength 9. You should be, but you rolled up 2.
You want to?
Come on,
let's do it. Especially if you roll a 6 to hit.
Smaug is defense 9, isn't it?
Yeah.
Smaug is defense 9, so you're going to be wounding him on 4s. Hopefully hit with a 6. That was a discussion, wasn't it?
It doesn't double up the whole thing. So if you did, let's say you hit him with a 6 with a black arrow, it's not instant death. It's half of his wounds gone.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And then next up, we've got another Uruk-Hai. So you can tell that a lot of this was written for the Two Towers release for Helm's Deep. You got the Uruk-Hai demolition team. What do these guys do?
These guys are berserkers, aren't they? Oh no, one with Uruk-Hai warriors can be flaming from a flaming brand. So it has 2 Uruk-Hai warriors and 1 Uruk-Hai berserker. Yeah.
And 1 demolition charge. The profile of which is shown below.
It's defense 7 with 3 wounds. So if you can shoot it and break the powder keg or something like that.
Yeah, so you got Legolas do his 3 shots there.
Yeah. 3 6s.
And miss the berserker after all of that amazing shooting. Wow. Unbelievable.
One job, Legolas.
Now, you're looking more towards sort of your mid-points level when you're talking about heroes here for how much the demolition team costs. And 1 or both Uruk-Hai warriors can have a flaming brand provided they do not have shields. Flaming brands, a model carrying a flaming brand cannot use a 2-handed weapon. If a model carrying a flaming brand is killed, the brand is extinguished and lost in the chaos of battle. Flaming brands are covered in the Fortress rules in the main rules manual. Are they?
Yes, they are.
All the stuff that you want to go through.
Yeah, so detonating the charge, if you've got a flaming brand, you need to pass a courage test once the bomb's been dropped. If you pass the courage test, you blow it up, and you have to roll it on the detonation table. There's also something called a desperate detonation, where let's say you've dropped the guy carrying the burning brand's dead. If you go into combat with it and roll a 6, you set it off, and then roll on the demolition table. You can attack the thing in combat if no one's carrying it, to try and wound it. On the detonation table, on the roll of a 1, it's a dud. So you pay all those points, it might not explode. The powder's got wet, risky. 2 to 5, instant reaction. The charge catches instantly, exploding in a roar of smoke and flame, and it does, I think, a strength 10 hit and d6 wounds to whatever it hits. And with range 2 inches, I think it was. Yeah, 2 inches of it. Oh, sorry, no. If there's no strength 10 hit, you just take d6 wounds regardless of your defense value.
Wow.
And
so it's conceivably, I know it's meant for siege, but conceivably it could be a bit of a hero.
You hit the line, boom!
Yeah.
There's a, and
that's quite cool.
On the 6th for the detonation table, Titanic explosion, it does 2d6 ruins rather than 6.
Wow.
So 2 of them could take down Smaug in 1 turn. 160 points, kill Smaug.
I wonder how many people will be building their army this year with that in mind. Hopefully not too many of you.
Larry Miller's mentioned taking them en masse.
That'd be so funny. That'd be so
suicide bombers.
Yeah. An 800 point tournament, you take 10 of them, 30 models all running in.
With a berserker carrying a brand.
Well funny. Now there is a special rule, which is Alchemical Fury.
That's the rules for detonating.
Have you already done that? Rules for detonating it, yeah, okay. Which is an interesting way to bring to a close what is a very interesting, filled out and competitive list. So let's do a little bit of a summary. What are we going to tend to see when we're looking at the warriors of Isengard?
In a standard force, Uruk-Hai warriors with some scouts. Yeah, maybe war riders. In a competitive list that's at sort of the top table, play probably feral Uruk-Hais with berserkers or Fururkers, as they've been dubbed.
Yeah, you're certainly going to see a lot of crossbows, and we've already talked about obviously the heroes that will probably lead them. Less so will you see sort of your trolls and your warg riders, but you might come across a few of those. Isengard is a competitive army that we would certainly recommend if you're looking to get into the hobby. You want to get into a good, forgiving, evil army that you don't need a huge number of troops for, and are cheap and easy to get hold of and very easy to paint. I painted my whole 800 points to a battlefield standard, so it's okay, it's inked and everything, in, what was it, 3 days? Unbelievable. So that has been us talking about Isengard. We hope that you enjoyed that, a good half an hour long video, so I hope you got some painting done.
Indeed.
So if you enjoyed that, make sure as always that you comment below, like, share and subscribe.
Support your hobby and like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
And as always guys, happy strategy battle gaming.